Welcome, we are the Ministry of the Real Truth, and we are wanting to present you this, hopefully, a short video presentation of what we have discovered in the public domain, public access online, about the said history of mankind, the origins, etc., and comparing it with what the original ancient, very old Assyrian Aramaic or Aramaic Lishana Artika Cypraea, the language of God, the language that God spoke to Adam and Eve in the garden, and also the men at the Tower of Babel spoke. They spoke that one language according to the book of Brita or Genesis, so they all fully understood each other until God confused them, giving them multiple languages, then scattering them. So we're doing a comparison of what a certain professor with 30 years experience said, and was rebuffed because his peers or fellows had a epiphany or a realization. So we're going to compare the two, but first we'll look at this documentary.
The radiocarbon dates were apparently obtained by German anthropologist Professor Rainer Proch von Zieten of the University of Frankfurt. Unfortunately, in February 2005, it was revealed that the 30-year-long career of this distinguished academic had come to an abrupt end due to the fact that he had been systematically falsifying the dates on numerous Stone Age relics. Thomas Terberger, the archaeologist who discovered the fraud, said, "Anthropology is going to have to completely revise its picture of modern man between 40,000 and 10,000 years ago. Professor Proch's work appeared to prove that anatomically modern humans and Neanderthals had coexisted and perhaps even had children together. This now appears to be rubbish."
That's according to the narrator's findings of what this particular professor's fellows or fellow professors at that institute came to believe about him, right? That what he said was total rubbish. So we're doing a comparison with the original ancient, very old Brita, or in English Genesis, from the original ancient, very old Assyrian Aramaic, or Aramaic Lishana Artika Cypraea, the language of God that God spoke to Adam and Eve in the garden apparently, and that the men at the Tower of Babylon, who spoke one language, according to the book of the Brita, the Exodus, translated to English by native-born Aramaic-speaking translator Victor Alexander from Betnarain or Mesopotamia, who's had 15 years experience or more translating these into the nearest English equivalent while staying faithful to what they actually say, without adding his own flavour, twisting it, inserting bias, prejudice, or whatever. Okay? So, looking at this, here it says, compared to your Americanized English Bible versions, which incorrectly put in the beginning God. Okay, here it says, as the beginning, the Son of God. Who's the Son of God? Yeshua Mashiach, Jesus the Christ, or Jesus the Messiah. He creates and brings forth. He brings forth into existence the heavens and the earth. Okay, and the earth was for him, by him, and made by him, etc. There's a footnote indication here. So we'll look down the bottom and at the footnotes and find that it compares with the New Testament John 1 verse 1 and on to 4. In the beginning of creation there was the manifestation, that's revelation or revealing, okay? Something that was hidden, not yet revealed, and that manifestation, that revealing, or that which was hidden was finally revealed, was with God, and God was the light, was the embodiment of that manifestation. Okay, so they're one and the same, which verifies that Christ is God. He's God himself. That's hard to understand because of this Mesopotamian or Eastern idioms, expressions, etc., or whatever, translated in English, right? Because they have the Eastern mindset, we have the Western mindset, so there's a possible confusion there. You've got to get your head around it, right? Probably adopt a Eastern-like mindset. So that basically verifies that God is the Christ and Christ is God. Okay, and here we go with the rest of John here. That all was created by him, nothing would exist because he's the life, right? Etc. etc. And then further on, Brita or Genesis 1:5-3, literal Aramaic word euma, eon, immeasurable period, age or day. So we're going to go back up here and have a look at that particular verse. Okay, for example, and God called the light day, and the darkness night, and evening and the morning became part of one cycle, the first eon. And there's a footnote indication there. Okay, again, literal Aramaic word euma, eon, immeasurable period, age or day. We actually found years before we actually found this website. That was up, and it was down, and we resurrected it. We revived it, and that's what we're bringing to you, right? He said unfathomable period, meaning that there was no man created at that time, so they can't. There's no witnesses, and they can't say, well, God started on this day, at this time of the day, and so forth, because there's no man that existed at that time. So we can only guesstimate it, from what's been written, told us in our churches, seminars, by top theologists, evangelists, etc. Right? So saying it was a literal 6 days and then God had a day off is incorrect if these are the original manuscripts in the original language. The Nishan Artika Sapraya, and dated, copied hand by hand and dated around 800 BCE by scribes, monks in Urhai, and being the language of the prophets, probably Moses, etc., that they spoke, and so forth. Okay, so 127 of that Brita or Genesis states, and God created a human being to resemble or to look like in his image, his own visage, his own face, if you define that word. He created them, it's two or more, if you create that word, male and female, two sexes, two genders, man and woman. We've covered this before, but for this particular video we have to do it again. Okay, and he blesses them, tells them, okay, off you go, multiply and increase, you have descendants, etc., etc. And he says, look, I give you every plant with seeds that's sown, etc., etc., as a source of food. Okay, and also these herds, or the animals like sheep, goats, cows, etc., whatever had teats, you could squeeze those teats and out will come milk, and you use it as a source for food. Making cheese, yogurt, butter, cream, whatever, right? Came to mind. So over the ages, obviously they did that. Okay, and then he sends them off, go, 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 and they're probably like most characters in the Brita or Genesis in English, they wander off to the east, if you ever notice that. Okay, so what he saw, what he created, he saw it was great, beautiful, right? Everything was great, and that was the evening and morning of the 6th eon, era, age, unfathomable period, etc., etc. So it's not talking about the Australian Aborigine as being the first. I did it again. Mate, stop messing it up. Too much in a hurry to get it done, I think. There's a standing.
The capstone culture, and that they had become embedded in layers dating from the early Pleistocene.
Take 4. Greetings, we are the Ministry of the Real Truth, and today we are hoping to bring you a short video based on this documentary that we came across, the public domain, public access, titled The Ancient Origins Extraordinary Evidence, a documentary that presented evidence suggesting that other humanoid races existed in our human distant past that remain largely unexplained and are changing the theory of evolution. Or this particular documentary creators' theory of evolution, or the entire world's understanding of evolution, or the theory of evolution itself. Okay, so we were hoping to do a comparison between what's contained in this first section of this documentary with the original ancient, very old Syrian Aramaic or Aramaic manuscripts translated by Aramaic speaking translator Victor N. Alexander from Bet Narain or Mesopotamia, who's had 15 years or more experience translating those scriptures. We are aiming to compare what this professor mentioned in this first part of this documentary had to say and what his fellow peers had to say against him and hold against him with the ancient Brita in the Aramaic or Genesis translated into English, into the nearest English equivalent without the translator having to twist it, add its own flavour or add bias or prejudice. He brings you the nearest English equivalent and stays faithful to what those original manuscripts actually say. So we're going to listen to snippets of this.
The radiocarbon dates were apparently obtained by German anthropologist Professor Rainer Proch von Zieten of the University of Frankfurt. Unfortunately, in February 2005, it was revealed that the 30-year-long career of this distinguished academic had come to an abrupt end due to the fact that he had been systematically falsifying the dates on numerous Stone Age relics. Thomas Terberger, the archaeologist who discovered the fraud, said, "Anthropology is going to have to completely revise its picture of modern man between 40,000 and 10,000 years ago. Professor Proch's work appeared to prove that anatomically modern humans and Neanderthals had coexisted and perhaps even had children together. This now appears to be rubbish."
Okay, this is in accordance to what this narrator is saying, that was discovered by this particular professor in Germany, as certain institutes, fellows or other professors with the same qualifications in that genre, etc., had said about this particular man. That what he said, that the modern man, or the Homo erectus, once he got off all fours, because supposedly he was originally a monkey, right? That was on crawling around on 4 fours. He stood upright, and all this other stuff. And that the Neanderthal man and the modern human being lived together, coexisted, and they interbred and had children, is a load of rubbish. So we are looking at the original ancient Brita or Genesis in English to see what that actually says. We're making a comparison, right? Okay, in your Americanized Bible versions, English Bible versions, it'll say in the beginning God. Okay, so all Christians out there will say, God the Father created everything, etc., etc. But that's a later translation into the English, right, over the centuries. So if this is the original Brita or Genesis from the original language spoken by God, Lishana Artika Sapreya, the language of God, which he spoke to Adam and Eve in the garden, or the men at the Tower of Babel spoke the one language, right, before God confused them with different languages, multiple languages, then scattered them, right? If this is the originals, this is what it says, translated by Victor N. Alexander into the nearest English equivalent, again staying faithful to what those original manuscripts actually say. In this Brita or Genesis, okay, everything was made by the Son of God. Who's the Son of God? Yeshua Mashiach, Jesus the Messiah, as we came to know him in the New Testament. Okay, and it goes on about that in this creation act, and it's not a literal 6 days, it's talking about one cycle, the first eon. There's a footnote indication there. So go race down to the bottom here where the footnotes are, and it explains to you what that word is in the ancient Aramaic. This is not Syriac, modern Syriac, as most people speak today, thinking that they know it all. They know a modern dialect, a modern derivative of the original Aramaic. Yeah, this is the Lishana Artika Sapreya, the original ancient, very old, and that's what differentiates it from your modern derivatives or vernacular that most people are well versed in today. Okay, claiming often that they have the original language when it's not. Here it says in the footnote 153, literal Aramaic word Euma, which means eon, immeasurable period, age or day with capital D. meaning it's referring to the lunar solar cycle, the Creator's Day, okay, or that original Hebrew calendar. Okay, so it's not a literal 6 days that he did all in a hurry, and then had a rest, a day off on the 7th day, okay, or day 7. It's not telling you that. It's over a measurable period of time, unfathomable, as another Western archaeologist, expert, etc., that we came across years and years and years ago, stated. It's an unmeasurable period of creation. Nobody knows, because there was nobody there, no man that existed to say, aha, yeah, and wrote it down, right? To put it in the easiest language possible. So, further down here at 127, and God created the human being to resemble, to look like him, in his own image, right? His own visage, meaning he had his face. He created them, God created them, 2 or more, male and female, 2 sexes, 2 genders, right? Okay? Well, man and woman, Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Okay? Yeah, and it's not talking about the Aboriginal man in Australia. It's talking about indigenous. Yeah? Those first tribal beings, right? And he says, I give you all the plants, etc., give you all the creatures of the wilderness, and etc., etc., as a source for food. Okay, so all these herds, right? Like you got cows, goats, sheep, whatever produces milk. You pull the teats, as you do today if you were a farmer with cattle, sheep, goats, etc., as a source for food. Okay, you get the milk from their teats, from them, and you use it to create butter, milk, cheese, yogurt, and so forth. Okay, and that's what you eat. You don't eat the animal. It's God's commandment. You don't eat the animal at the time, right? There's a footnote indication here. So look at the bottom here. For Brito 130 or Genesis 130. Note, predominantly as a source for food, seldom to be sacrificed or eaten. It's only a sacrifice when God required it, i.e. the sacrifice required by Cain and Abel. And it talks further about God then creates a human being, a second being, a second Adam. Yeah. Here it is here. And God stopped working on the 6th eon, age, immeasurable period, unfathomable period, era, or day with a capital D, not a literal day of the week. Yeah. And he rested in the 7th eon, era, unfathomable period, age, etc. Yeah. And he moulded Adam from the dust to resemble himself. Okay. From the dust, note that there. From the dust, he didn't just like make him in his own image. He made him from the dirt, the dust, the earth, to look like him, okay, to resemble himself, as he did with the pre-Adamic, before Adam, right? And he blew on their faces the breath of life. It's the breeze, in the footnotes, and Adam became a living soul. So we went from inanimate to a living, walking, talking, running around soul, and so forth. Here's the indication here, the meaning, the literal Aramaic word or meaning of Adam, and Adamtha, or portrait. See, it's like God had done a painting of himself, to use that analogy, right? So he basically made something that looked a hell of a lot like him. And there's the breath of life, a breeze that came over him or through his nostrils, the breath of life, and so forth. So, according to these original ancient manuscripts, hand copied by scribes in monks in Ur, dated around 800 BCE, that's how it reads when translated, that there was a pre-Adamic man, and it agrees it's the only manuscripts translated that you can compare with science. It agrees with the archaeological scientific discoveries and evidence. Okay, then it goes on further. Okay, so here's the Yuma, eon or cycle. The Yuma or eons, or cycles. This is probably the plural. Okay, and Adam gets together with Eve, and they have descendants. So we're going to move on to verify the existence of Neanderthal man. Okay, this is the genealogy from Adam to Noah. And note here, as we've done a lot of times before in different videos, it doesn't say like your Americanized English Bible version, and then Adam died, being 900 years old. Okay, it's completely wrong, translated wrong. Here, Genesis or Brita 5 verse 5, and so Adam's entire line or lineage was 930 years altogether, and it then ended. But in your English, Americanized English Bible versions, it says he was 900, then he died. Okay, there it verifies it's incorrect, translated incorrectly. So have a look at that footnote. 5 literal Aramaic idiom. His lineage died out. Genesis 5. This chapter follows in detail the line or lineage of Seth. So that's what it's talking about, see? Here. And Adam's line, after the birth of Seth, lived 800 years, and to him were born many sons and daughters. So the oldest son became his heir. Right? He was the boss of all the rest of them. He was in charge. He was the chief. He was the head. So Adam's entire line or lineage was 930 years altogether, then ended. It was over when he died, right? So in between having that's first son, Cain was out of the picture totally. So he had this second son, the son that replaced Abel, whom Cain killed, and he became the head, the chief of the descendants to follow. And then he had a lineage, and eventually he had a heir or an older son who took over. So eventually Seth's line lineage died out. And further down in Brita or Genesis 6, and while human beings began to multiply on the face of the earth, daughters were born to them. The sons of God saw that daughters of men, it's human beings, right? There's a footnote indication there. Daughters of the human being, not aliens, nunus or little green men, okay? As some people seem to think and claim it's in the book of Enoch, all that sort of stuff. So people don't realise maybe that book of Enoch was mentioned in the scriptures, be it in the Old Testament or even the New Testament. It's not referring to this Gnostic pseudepigraphic version, right? It's probably a completely different version altogether. Okay. If you look at it, you study it, research it, the book of Enoch, you may find, we stress, may find, it's pseudepigrapha, meaning that historians, theologians, etc. can date to when it was actually written, but they can't verify who actually wrote it, so they call it pseudepigrapha. Anonymous writer who may have written it in a certain date, say 1759 or something like that, or Gnostics or whatever, right? Okay, but they can't verify you who the actual author was. But a lot of people tend to mess with it, probably over time, you know, and say, oh yeah, it says here, it says that, and this is proof of aliens, little green men, nunus, whatever, right? All this sort of stuff. And it fits in with these conspiracy theorists, theory, etc., right? And again, keep in mind, if you do the personal research, etc., you'll find that they're deemed pseudepigrapha, and that's why they're not included in the Bible. Okay, via the Nicene Council, whoever decided, no. We're not going to include that because we think it's a load of rubbish. There's no proof that, who is the author. It's mystical, it's mythical, it's not true, etc., whatever reason they had. So, while human beings began to multiply on the face of the earth, their daughters were born to them. There's two lines. There's a line of Seth and his descendants, the holy line, of which eventually the Christ would come from. And then there's the unholy line, the men of Adam, those who are not of God, the unrighteous, the wicked, animal, nature-led Neanderthal and his inbreeds, his hybrids, of which we are descendants of. It's all in this Brita or Aramaic Genesis. Okay, so these daughters, these men who left their rightful place, right? They were of that holy line. They turned their back on God because they saw that all his daughters were hot. His daughters of the other line were hot. So the sons of God saw that daughters of men, because remember, Seth's line began to call on the name of God. Okay? They became this holy, righteous line up until that point. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men, ordinary human beings, the result of hybridization between the Neanderthal man and the human beings, were beautiful. Okay, we'll go back there. We messed up there. Okay, and while human beings began to multiply on the face of the earth, daughters were born to them. Okay? Born to those normal, ungodly human beings, those who are not in communion with God. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men, these are the ones that left their rightful place with God. Yeah? They saw that the daughters of men, or human beings, were hot or beautiful, so they picked for themselves women whomever they pleased. And God said, my spirit does not reside in a human being forever, to the universal, the end of the universe, or universes of universes, because he is flesh. He's simply flesh, right? And his lifespan is going to become short, going to be 120 years. And they were giants. They are famous people, or famous beings, known, okay, in the earth, in those ages, in their eras, and those eras to follow. And even later, because the sons of God entered upon the daughters of men, and they were born to them aliens. None of those little green men or ETs, okay, because the sons of God, the children of God, left that line, departed, because the women were hot, the daughters of men were hot, right, they were beautiful, and then they interbred with them, did the wild thing, and born to them were aliens, again not Nanu or Mork from Orc, who were giants of universal fame. So we look at the footnotes here, hopefully this isn't confusing you, down the bottom here. Okay. Literal Aramaic idioms, strange creatures, hybrid forms, monstrously large, Neanderthals. So again, these scriptures verify that there were pre-Adamic human beings, or beings, the Neanderthals. These were named Neanderthal after some German discovered the remains in caves. I think his name was Neander, something like that. Okay. So this proves or verifies, if these are the original scriptures, that they were pre-Adamic men. Okay? Or Neanderthals. They were giants of universal fame. So they were well known. So that's probably where you get your mythical giant stories from. They were famous, they were great. Okay? All over the earth. They were well known. And the Lord saw that evil spread on the earth, and every dissipation of the heart excuses became worse with every age. So they basically said, stuff you, God, stick the thumb in their nose at them, nah, right? And we'll do our own thing, we'll do what we like, with who we like, how we like, when we like, etc. We don't need you. Okay, so they became corrupt. However many men there were on the earth at that time, in that certain region, okay, and then later on comes the flood, where he tries to wipe them out. Okay. So this note here says it's Genesis 6 Ulaita, the Hebrew version of the Epic of Gilgamesh. That's Sumerian, isn't it? So somewhere along the way, they must have adopted it for it to become the Hebrew version of a Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh, which then became the Akkadian and the Babylonian, right? They just had different names. Okay? Like the Noah of this story was originally Upancham. Okay, and there's another one, he had another name, forgotten his name. several names, right? Depending on who was retelling the story, be it the Akkadian, the Babylonian, or the Assyrians. Is it Archaeologists? Yeah. So we have been speaking to Assyrians on Facebook. We are part of an Assyrian Church of the East Facebook page, but we sort of feel that they are a bit iffy. Not that they're bad or anything like that, it's just we tried to show them our interest in their Assyrian history, etc., and they sort of put up a link to this, to what we discovered, etc., about it all, and they sort of they said to us, "Oh, you're spamming, you're banned," and all this sort of stuff. It's like, hey, spam is something you get in a can, tastes horrible. It's a fake corned beef, right? It's yuck, or it's defined as solicitation mail, right? It's something that you try to get people to buy into. So we're like, well, that's unfair, right? But we've came across other Assyrians that were quite nice, and we had a good time relating what we'd found to them, and they helped us with more information on the Assyrian histories, the religion, etc., like that, because we have come across other Assyrians that say, no, you don't want to know anything about it. We hate it. We hate our history. Or most of the Assyrians hate the history. If you knew what it was really like, what it's really about, you would dislike it as well, etc., etc. So, yeah, don't go there. But, yeah, again, we talked to these other Assyrians, and they're quite nice, and they appreciated us, and we appreciated them. So, basically, in this video, that's what it's all saying. Yeah, so it's verifying that this particular man, and the fact that the Neanderthal man and the human beings coexisted and they may have interbred, was actually stating a truth, because the Aramaic breeder backed them up on it. But there's certain things possibly that these other professors, etc., don't want out there, because they're probably proponents of the Charles Darwin theory of evolution. Okay, they're probably sticklers for that, and they probably have some sort of motive or agenda, probably paid handsomely to put out a certain dose of information to the public to get them on that same thought level. Okay, this is how it is. You have to accept this. Okay, we have evidence. Whatever anyone else says, no, that's rubbish. Okay, we have the truth, the only truth, and that's it. Right? Don't believe anything else. Only believe what we say. Okay? After all, we are professors. We have MBA, EFC, whatever. All those qualifications after our name. So take us seriously. And yet they could be just like this guy, lying through their teeth. This guy who falsified dates for 30 or more years, and he was finally caught out and booted out of that institute that he had a 30-year career in. Okay, so we will end it there. Hopefully this was interesting for you. Opens your eyes to the truth, the evidence of this, what this guy here was saying, even though he was caught being fraudulent. If you like this video, then give us a like, subscribe, add comments below the video. We'll get back to you on those, and then go share it with your family, friends, and others, so they may come to realise and understand that they're being taught a certain translation, way to think, etc., etc., through their modern Americanized English Bible versions, and the lies pumped out by these American Bible societies and similar Bible societies, because someone, the source that goes back over the centuries, is presenting them with something that's corrupt, mistranslated, bad translations or interpolations, etc., etc., because they may have some sort of hidden agenda or motive or agenda, okay, and they're trying to like program, brainwash, so that we will follow them, right, and then pay tribute to them, give a coin to them, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so thank you for taking the time to watch this latest video.